If you ever feel out of control around food, you're not alone, and you're in the right place to learn practical, no-nonsense information about why you binge and how to stop. Binge eating does not mean that something is wrong with you. It's a natural but primitive brain response that you can correct. If you're ready for change, sign up for the Brain Over Binge self-paced online course for less than $20 per month. And if you feel you need personalized support, we also offer one-on-one coaching and group coaching. To learn more, go to brainoverbinge.com/subscribe. And I hope you enjoy the show. This is the Brain Over Binge podcast, where you learn a simple, brain-based approach to ending binge eating. I'm your host, Kathryn Hansen, and I'm excited that today is the first Q&A episode. Now, for these Q&A episodes, I want it to be a little more relaxed, a little more informal, maybe just more like me talking to you as I would on a group call if you were in the Brain Over Binge group course, or just like we were having a conversation. I really hope that by just kind of talking and by sharing ideas, that I'll be able to help you sort out some of these questions that you have and just help you find solutions and allow you to have your own insights, because that's really what this is about. It's not about, me telling you what you should feel and should think and should eat. It's all about you kind of determining that for yourself and determining how you can best move forward, how you can learn to dismiss these urges, and you can learn to eat adequately, and you can just learn to put this habit behind you. So I truly hope that you enjoy these Q&A episodes, and without further introduction, I'd like to get on to the first question. The first question is from someone I'll call M. And M says, "Dear Kathryn, my question is about neuroplasticity. Is it possible for our brain to destroy our old binge pathways even if we take time and effort to overcome the urge? Or do we always have to smoothly detach ourselves from the urge and dismiss it as soon as it hits in order for our brains to change? Even if we end up not binging, if we had to white-knuckle the urge first, would it not result in neuroplasticity at all? Or does it help if we stave off the act of binging itself, regardless of the method or the time that it takes?" This is a really great question, because if you've been following this podcast, you know that I teach dismissing urges. And dismissing urges is kind of what she talked about, kind of smoothly realizing this urge is not from you. It's not something you need to believe. It's not something you need to act on, and just allowing it to pass. And she used the word smoothly, and I just used the word smoothly, but it doesn't always feel smooth, I think, for a lot of people. And that does raise a question, like, am I not doing this right? What's wrong with me? I do feel like it's difficult at times. I do feel like it's hard. I don't always feel like I'm just seeing the thought and then letting it go. So when you have these experiences that you kind of feel like you're white-knuckling, then what? I mean, even if you don't binge, are you still making progress? And that's basically what she's asking. So, I'd like you to just kind of relax in knowing that the main goal is not to binge. And dismissing the urge is a way to make that easier. You basically have a strategy to use, and you have a way to make it less uncomfortable. You have a way to just detach yourself from it. Because if you don't detach yourself from it, if you don't have some degree of separation, you're probably going to eventually act on it. You're going to think the urge is meaningful. You're going to think the urge is powerful and that it means something and that you need to binge for some reason. So the goal is not to act. And dismissing is a way to help you not act on it. If you don't feel like you're dismissing properly, but you still don't act, I still do think that that leads to brain changes. Now, all of you listening know that I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm not a doctor, so, I can't tell you exactly what your brain is doing, but anytime you don't do a habit, it does change your brain. You don't follow through with the action, then it will lead to changes, okay? So if you don't act, you should still celebrate that. No matter if you felt like it was smooth or no matter if you felt like it was hard, you definitely should celebrate your success. And as anyone who listens to the podcast knows, celebrating your success, getting excited, that's all really helpful for neuroplasticity. When you get excited, it actually helps your brain change faster and helps solidify the changes that you make. So let's say it really felt like a struggle, but you didn't act, but then you get excited. That helps cement not acting. So just don't be upset with yourself if you felt like it was a struggle, because it still is a victory not to act on the urge. If you think of anyone who's kind of quit a habit, let's look at children, for example. Most kids have some sort of habit like thumb sucking or nail biting or pacifier use. And when you take that away from them, it is a struggle for them. They do resist it. They don't have that ability in their higher brain to kind of step back and to detach and to let the urges pass smoothly. But you don't see these kids sucking a pacifier when they're 15 years old. They quit and their brain does not urge them to. It's not like because they fought it and because they didn't dismiss the urges to suck a pacifier, for example, that habit stays. It does eventually extinguish. I think that the more you can separate from the urge, the more you can take that step back from it, the less attention you give to the urge, the faster your brain will change, because attention and emotion is really what solidifies and cements habits in the brain. So when you give it less attention and less emotion, it helps it dissolve. But just not acting also creates change. It just might, I guess, take a little longer. And that's where the problem comes in, is that if you're constantly fighting and it just goes on every day and you feel like it's just taking too long and you're white knuckling through every urge, it's not really a long-term strategy. It's not something that most people can keep up with long-term. I mean, plenty of people do, and plenty of people can kind of go cold turkey on things and can just distract themselves and can, use this just sheer willpower approach, and they overcome habits and they never do them again. And that's fine. But for most people, it's difficult, and you do need to have that level of separation in order to make changing feel possible, in order to not get discouraged, in order to not feel like every day is really a battle. So that's the purpose of dismissing. It's not to tell you have to do it perfectly. It's that it's a way to help not acting feel doable for you. Now, the last thing I want to say in regards to this question is that if you feel like it's a really hard struggle every day, and even with learning about dismissing and practicing, it's still not feeling easier, I think a big reason for that is just not eating enough. And I don't know if this is the case for you or not, Em, but for anyone listening who really feels like you're constantly battling, it could just be that you're simply not giving yourself enough food and you're in that survival mode where you don't have as much access to your self-control and to your ability to step back and detach from the urges. So look at the amount of food you're eating. Just make sure you're not going hungry. Make sure you're not creating a lot of rigid rules that make you feel really deprived. And just make sure you have the eating adequately part of this in place as well. Remember, it's always two parts: dismissing urges and eating adequately. Thank you so much, Em, for that question. I truly hope that my answer helps you and helps anyone listening who might have a similar concern. Now I'm going to wrap up today's show. I really hope that you enjoyed this first Q&A episode, and I look forward to having another Q&A session next month. As always, you can get my free ebook by clicking the link in the show notes. And I really hope that you find that ebook helpful as well. It focuses on the 5 components of dismissing urges to binge. So that ebook will help you learn to separate from the urges, to detach from them, and to make not acting on them become possible. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you listen again next time. As always, I want to encourage you and remind you that you have the power to change your brain and live a binge-free life. The Brain Over Binge podcast is produced and recorded by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC. All work is copyrighted by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC, and all rights are reserved. As a disclaimer, the hosts of the Brain Over Binge podcast are not professional counselors or licensed healthcare providers, and this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or any form of professional therapy. Eating disorders can have serious health consequences, and you are strongly advised to seek medical attention for matters relating to your health. Please get help when you need it, and good luck on your journey. Need more help? You can find all of our current and upcoming options for support at brainoverbinge.com.